Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. Now this is actually an impromptu video, so we'll just kind of see where this one goes. You see, after I made the video earlier today, thinking I'm going to have a stream tonight, maybe. So if I am, I want to drift off for a couple of hours and have a nap because I'm an old man. And that's what we love to do. Lost all my other drives and impulses and desire. Doesn't matter. Anywho, I thought I would send myself off to the land of Nod, and I say this in the nicest of ways by putting on a nice podcast to listen to. That doesn't mean the podcast is boring. It just means it's cool to listen to as you drift off. And I picked a Midnight's Edge podcast, which had an intriguing article in the title, which I saw where the writers of Star Trek Lower Decks had said that the officers in Starfleet were all baseline bi. And I don't mean polar, which is what all the writers are. I mean, of course, sexual. And so I thought, what? Because this is where activist or activism takes over from logic and reason and science and common sense. Because if the writer had just taken 2 seconds to think about it, and I think this is probably one of the reasons why New Trek is in such a pit of shite, is because they haven't taken 2 seconds to think about anything. Because as Kurtzman said himself, it's no longer about Star Trek. It's about using the platform to preach their messages. Said it himself. But if what he said he believes, then the human race has been doomed to extinction. And I'll go into why. So this comes from an article from Bounding Into Comics from the 16th of October, so about a week or so ago, by Drew Taylor. And it says, Star Trek Lower Decks showrunner claims every Starfleet officer is baseline bisexual. And this is originally taken from an article in Variety. Of course, a place where they do love to project, a place where they do love to show their peers exactly how woke they are so they can get their doggy treats. And it moves along with Star Trek Lower Decks showrunner and executive producer Mike McMahon recently claimed that every Starfleet officer on the show is baseline bisexual. So let's put it into some context and pull up the actual article itself. And it stems from this answer to the question. You also just mentioned something about Mariner that I didn't really pick up on during the show. Her friend, Captain Amina Ramsey, was her lover when they were at the academy. And he goes into some, yeah, it's not physical love. Whatever. And then says, for me and for the writers, as we were making this, we didn't intentionally mean for anybody to be strictly, and here you come with the awful language which they use nowadays, because they have to tread on eggshells because they've created such a fragile woke society for themselves that if they use the wrong term, then they are probably doomed to cancellation. Here we go. Nobody to be strictly heteronormative or straight or cis. Every Starfleet officer is probably at the baseline bisexual in a way. Now, this has no longer become Star Trek. This has now become The Twilight Zone or Black Mirror or something like that. Or it's become an episode of Star Trek where the Enterprise arrives at a world that's got a population crisis. And when they go and try and discover what the population crisis is, they realize that this is a society of purely bisexual creatures. And unfortunately for their society, they've all chosen same-sex relationships. Because that, by the law of averages, is what will happen. If you are a bisexual society by nature, everybody being it, then a proportion of that will choose same-sex relationships, and a portion will choose different sex relationships. And it will, by the law of averages, go fiddy-fiddy. And so every generation, you're cutting your population. Every generation. Because that is the way that it will go. Till you've got 100 colonists and have all chosen same-sex relationships. Because that is where it would go down. This is the absolute stupidity of these people. They don't think about where these stories come from. They don't think about whether it makes sense or not. And of course, that was one of the beauties about Star Trek, was not every episode necessarily made sense, but it was well thought out and it was well written. And so you can forgive the little, but wouldn't they, you know, the little aspects of the show which might prod a few questions, because the actual level of the show and the quality is exceptionally high. As opposed to Lower Decks, where I saw one episode in 8 minutes and I was out. Because it was just garbage. Absolute garbage. I don't know who it was written for, why it was written, but it got a season 1 and season 2 order at the same time, and therefore season 2 was already underway before any of the feedback from season 1 had hit. And of course the feedback from season 1 has been that this show is dog shit. And if you've seen the ratings coming through from at least Canada, they have just tumbled into absolute oblivion. So, can we please start to get writers that are more interested in actually creating interesting sci-fi topics of discussion by using the medium of science fiction to create good social storylines or political storylines or class-based storylines or gender-based storylines, which Star Trek has done, and wrap them up into such a clever narrative that you are just entertained. And then you can sit back and start to think about the messages later on. As apart from this heavy-handed garbage which is spewed out of an orifice which, shall we say this tactfully, disposes of waste. You asshole! Because you're so desperate to appease and appeal to your echo chamber and like-minded peers, because you're so in need of their validation and not an approval, that you end up just creating tat. Ill thought out, stupid tat. Now, I've actually said the generous stuff so far. Let me get into the practical side of it for a moment, because I think this has to be said as well. This is also massively condescending and bigoted. We don't know the true proportion of alphabet community representatives. Rumors are, when I say rumors, because I'll go into that in a second, rumors are that it has a roughly about 10% odd. But I did a video a little while back, which involved having to go into statistics about this. And when I looked into it, I realized that a lot of the polls that had been written up around this were very skewed. in as much as it would say, have you ever kissed somebody of your same sex? And if the answer was yes, then you were part of the percentage. Regardless of whether it was the only time in your life that you ever did it, the context behind it irrelevant. And I don't mean like pecking your dad on the, on the lips goodbye when you're a kid and stuff like that. We're talking snoggy here. But it was so sort of skewed to desperately add numbers to it. So we don't know if it's 10%. We don't know if it's 2%. But it kind of feels as if it's probably around about the 4-5% mark. And this is not being nasty. This is not being patronized or anything. But that is a very much a minority figure. It's not the norm. I didn't say it's not natural. I just said it's not the norm. Because when something is, let's just round it up to 5%, 95% one and 5% another, then the 95% is classed as the norm. So to just say, well, let everyone's now buy is massively condescending and patronizing and bigoted to that 5%. Because you're infantilizing them. You're treating them as if they need to be pushed up. And if being gay, straight, bi, whatever it is, if that isn't a choice, and as everyone said, this is how you are born, then suddenly a society can't develop into baseline bisexual. It doesn't make a lick of sense. It's pandering and projection of the highest order. And it doesn't work. You would condemn your race to extinction by doing it. Woke Hollywood has got to come crashing down soon. It really has. And for no other reason than we need people who want to create entertainment for us. Not people who want to steal, hijack wonderful franchises, beloved franchises, Star Trek, Star Wars, Doctor Who, etc., and use those as mouthpieces for their partisan beliefs and irresponsible, bigoted comments so that they can pander and project to their echo chambers. We need people who want to entertain everybody, that want to come on with exciting stories, with creative minds, that are there for no other reason than to try and produce the strongest product that we can unite behind and everybody enjoy. Because it wasn't that many years ago that I was involved in fandoms that open-armed accepted everybody because we were united by the beauty of our beloved franchise. But now this infection has got in with these people and they have caused such division and now stupid, irresponsible comments in an effort to pander and appease and play woke mania. I don't know. Just absolutely ridiculous. And it all comes at the expense of that beloved fandom. Right. I think I've said all I need to say about this. But Star Trek Lower Decks, I just don't touch it with a barge pole. It's insulting. It's infantilizing. It's meant to be canon. How? Fuck off. Just get it out of here. Kurtzman's doing his best to destroy it. He's doing very well indeed. He thinks he's going to be sticking around till 2027 with Star Trek. But it'll be dead and buried by then. I mean, it's dead and buried now. Nobody cares. Kurtzman's killed the movies. He's killed the love for Picard. He's killing the love now for the Next Generation timeline. At the end of Picard, we had the most absurd interaction between Seven of Nine and Waffy, or whatever she was called. You know, there was an attempt to say, oh my goodness, look at these two women, they've just found love. You know, Seven of Nine, hey look, just get lumbered with this druggy alcoholic who can't handle her life and who has a son which had a scene in Picard for some reason, because that's all you're good for. You know, it paints horrendous pictures and presents people from minority communities in such disgusting light in an attempt to portray woke. Get these people out. Get people that want to entertain everybody in. I hope you enjoyed the vid. Like I said, it was impromptu. If it made no sense, don't worry about it. I hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, do give it a thumbs up. And also subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media and YouTube for live streaming links. They're in the description box down below. And I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care. Bye for now.